Today, I pulled in a bunch of EZGO RXVs into the shop. I've got a bunch of pre-orders and a bunch of refurb carts I need to do. And I thought no better time to do a how to troubleshoot an EZGO RXV in the most basic form without a voltage meter and without a handheld, so anybody can troubleshoot these. Now, these EZGO RXVs, I've worked on so many, I've sold so many. These are actually my best sellers because the performance is so good. These carts actually make everything else hard to sell. But an RXV that's having problems, there's nothing more frustrating because of the motor brake. If there's any fault at all, the cart will not run. And so if it's not running, what you gotta do is you gotta flip it into neutral and then hit the tow switch in order to get the cart moved out of the way. But sometimes that doesn't even work. So in this video, I'm gonna show you what to look for and how to troubleshoot. This video is going to apply to all RXVs from 2008 to present, lithium or lead acid carts. Good news is most RXV problems are pretty simple. The hardest part is usually finding it, but follow along and we could probably find your issue. Now, I said you weren't going to need a voltmeter, but we need a good baseline. We got to make sure your battery pack is above 48 volts. At 100% state of charge, it should be above 50. Next thing, if that checks out, I would make sure all these connections are tight and clean. As you can see, this one is not very good, but the cart still runs. And I would check further down on the controller and make sure all these connections are tight and clean. If that checks out, I would check out these pedals. These pedals need to return to 0%. If they're sagging at all, that will cause a fault. Now for the brake pedal, you can tighten up the spring. It's a 15 millimeter, and that will usually fix that. These rarely sag, but just some WD-40 can usually clear that up. I have had to replace one spring before, but it's usually rare. If that checks out, I would check this jumper plug. This jumper plug is a 2012 and up thing. Elites do not have it. These are usually pretty corded out. And as you can see, that's not good. I would not trust this. And if that checks out, next thing I would check is the fuse over here. This fuse is a key switch fuse, which feeds a lot of the switches. And I've had one customer pressure wash their cart and there was a ground fault in this blue. Kind of rare, but it can and does happen. Next thing I would check is the charger interlock system. The interlock system is designed so when the charge is connected, the cart will not run. There is an internal fuse in here that is irreplaceable. And the test to see if that fuse is blown, you undo this and you make a jumper wire and touch this and hit battery positive. If the cart runs, then you need to replace your charging receptacle. Now, if you check the following, and if you can't get your cart into tow, it could be the following: a sticking brake switch. These, over time, they just get a little bit rough and they stick. And when they stick, it's almost as if somebody's holding the brake. You can try to snap it back by just hitting it hard. That can sometimes release it. I have put dielectric grease on here so they move a little bit smoother. It's not really the proper thing to do. It's best just to get a new OEM one. Another thing it could be is the solenoid. The solenoids are a normal wear part on all electric carts, and it's good to just replace these if yours has not been replaced. Get a good OEM trombetta. This will save you. Don't get the Amazon, eBay crap. You will have a problem, and I mean you will have a problem with them. Next thing it could be is a seized brake. These do seize. If your cart is faster than stock, it's a lot of load on these little brakes. These can seize. It's a magnetic brake, and sometimes they just fail. So if your cart is fast, try not hitting the brake so hard. It's not designed for it. These carts were designed for old people going down a fairway at 10 miles an hour. Making them 30 plus, you're kind of asking for problems. Also, it's not safe because there's no real brake system on these. I will not build a high voltage, high performance RXV for this reason, unless you do the front brakes, and then that kind of solves everything. Now, if you're this far and your cart is still not running, it could be a loose connector on one of the sensors or a break in one of the wires in the harness. Now, the batteries are 80 pounds and people throw them in and out all the time. And with the wiring harness right here, I actually see them pinched all the time. And plus, these lead acid batteries are really nasty. A bunch of toxic vapor mist comes out and just corrodes everything around it. It'll make everything just get rotten. And more often than not, I mean, I gotta replace the harness. On my full refurb carts, I replace the harness by default, and then, I mean, just scrap the old harness. Yeah, so I would just check the wires. I mean, a little bit of a tedious process, but that could be very well what it is. And I do put the Chinese harnesses in these carts, and I've never had a problem. I mean, dare I say it, I actually like them a little bit better than the factory ones because the installation is a little bit tougher. So that is what it could be. And to tell you a story, I actually bought 11 of these EZGO RXVs. They were 2012s. They had a ton of battery cycles, and the dealer could not figure out the issues. I mean, I was troubleshooting. I mean, nothing made sense. Continuity would be there, put load on it. All of a sudden, the voltage and continuity would disappear. Very frustrating. All the carts actually needed wiring harnesses, and they ran like brand new. So it's not uncommon that the wiring harness is bad. It's a little bit of a tedious process replacing it. It's best to remove the body or remove the batteries. You do have to lift up the body a little bit to get some of the connectors through. It's not terrible, but it kind of depends on the person. So that could very well what it could be. Okay, now on to the more uncommon sensors that rarely go bad. The position sensors, those rarely go bad. I've not encountered anyone going bad, but being electronics, anything's possible. I've never ran into a bad ignition switch, but again, anything's possible. I have ran into a reverse buzzer that wasn't working. If the reverse buzzer's not working, then that will throw a fault. Now, the high temp limit for the resistor, I've not ran into any bad one. I mean, I actually have not experienced a hot resistor yet. The motor, I mean, if you're out of wet and if it's sealed, I mean, they'll last pretty much forever. I've had a friend, one went bad, but it was cracked. I mean, the cart was like jumped off a cliff or something. Speed encoders, I've heard of those going bad, but I've never experienced it myself. Usually there's telltale signs of that going bad with drivability issues, but you're usually still able to drive the car. Get an OEM one. I mean, you're gonna have problems with the aftermarket one. I've tried it, they don't work very good. And after all that troubleshooting and diagnosing, and if you're still having issues with the RXV, in the end, it might be a bad motor controller. Now, I don't see these go bad with normal use, but being electronics, anything's possible. I've encountered one bad controller, but it was due to a loose lug and everything was charred around it, so it bricked the controller. And my first RXV ever in 2018, I think it had a bad controller, but I'm thinking that there was other issues going on. And so I bought a Navitas controller, 600 amp. When they first were released, it was like $600 on Amazon, and that actually ended up going bad. They were blowing one of the sequences, and there's three sequences in the acceleration, funny enough. So I don't really see these go bad. At that point, I mean, you need to go to someone with a handheld or just buy a Navitas controller, and that's more user-friendly at diagnosing and reading faults. Okay, it's time to wrap up this video. If this video provided value to you, leave a comment below if it solved your problems. And if there's something I missed, leave that in the comment below as well so it will help other people. All right, thanks for watching.